The Zareks had catalogued 14,000 species across the galaxy. They had faced the crystalline hive minds of Andromeda's edge, creatures that could restructure matter with thought alone. They had negotiated with the plasma beings of stellar cores, entities that existed as pure energy within the hearts of stars. They had even survived encounters with the Void Hunters' parasitic dark matter constructs that consumed entire solar systems. Nothing had ever made them afraid. Commander Vexhai stood before the holographic display in the central chamber of their exploration vessel, watching the preliminary scans of the third planet in this unremarkable yellow star system. The data streams showed a world teeming with life, dominated by a bipedal species that had barely achieved interplanetary travel. Their technology was primitive chemical rockets, nuclear fission, electromagnetic communication systems that leaked energy wastefully into space. Initial assessment suggests a Class 7 civilization, reported Science Officer Ketara, her forearms dancing across the quantum interface. Pre-contact protocols should be sufficient. Standard observation period, then peaceful integration into the galactic collective. Vexhai nodded, his chitinous plates shifting with the motion. The Zareks had perfected first contact procedures over millennia. They would observe from the shadows, learn the species' psychology and social structures, then reveal themselves when the time was optimal. It was a process that had worked flawlessly with thousands of worlds. But as days passed in orbit around the blue planet, something began to disturb the crew. The humans, as the dominant species called themselves, exhibited behaviors that defied all known patterns of intelligent life. Commander Ketara's voice carried an unusual tremor during the morning briefing. "I've been analyzing their historical data transmissions. These humans, they appear to have engaged in systematic extermination of their own species." Vexhai's secondary eyes focused on the data. Territorial disputes, resource competition, these are common among developing civilizations. No, sir. They call it genocide. They have deliberately eliminated entire populations of their own kind based on arbitrary genetic variations that have no impact on survival or intelligence. They have done this repeatedly throughout their recorded history. The commander felt a strange sensation, something his species had no word for, because they had never experienced it. A cold spreading through his thorax, a tightening of his breathing spiracles. Navigator Ornther spoke up from his position. "Sir, I've detected something else disturbing. They have developed weapons capable of destroying their entire biosphere multiple times over, and they continue to build more." "Deterrence," Vexhai said, grasping for rational explanation. "Many species develop overwhelming force to prevent conflict." Commander Ornther's voice was barely above a whisper. "They have already used these weapons. On themselves. On civilian populations. And they debate whether to use them again." The bridge fell silent, except for the hum of the ship's quantum processors. In 14,000 catalog species, none had ever intentionally created the means of their own extinction, let alone use them. But the human's capacity for self-destruction was only the beginning. Communications Officer Zilneth had been monitoring their entertainment transmissions. "They create fictional scenarios," she reported, her voice strained, "in which they portray themselves as monsters. They call them horror stories. But Commander, they seem to enjoy being frightened by depictions of their own potential for evil." Ketara pulled up new data. "I've been studying their biology. They possess a fight or flight response system, but it's broken. When faced with impossible odds, when any rational being would flee, they often choose to fight instead. They call it courage, but it appears to be a systematic failure of their survival instincts. And their reproduction strategy," added Medical Officer Hythkan. "Their offspring are born completely helpless and remain dependent for decades. This should make them extremely protective parents. Instead, They regularly send their young into combat situations. They have entire institutions designed to train children to fight and die. Vexhai stared at the planet below, its swirling clouds and blue oceans suddenly seeming less beautiful than ominous. Continue monitoring. Over the following weeks, the reports grew more disturbing. Humans consumed toxic substances for pleasure. They engaged in recreational activities that could kill them. They had developed torture as an art form. They created philosophical systems that glorified suffering. But the discovery that finally broke the crew came from deep analysis of human literature and communications. Commander Ketera's voice was hollow. They know what they are. The hologram displayed human writing stories, philosophies, self-examinations spanning millennia. They are aware of their capacity for evil. They document it, study it, and yet they choose to embrace it anyway. They have words for concepts that no other species has needed: sadism, cruelty, malice. They understand that they cause unnecessary suffering, and many of them enjoy it. Vexhai felt something he had never felt before, would never have believed possible. Fear, pure, primal terror of another thinking being. Sir, Navigator Ornta reported, long-range sensors are detecting human space probes. Primitive, but they're expanding outward. They'll achieve faster than light travel within a few centuries. The commander stared at the data, imagining these creatures spreading across the galaxy like a plague. Species that would torture their own children, destroy their own worlds, and smile while doing it. Set course for the galactic core, Vexhai ordered. Maximum velocity. Sir? Ketera questioned. We need to warn the collective. We need to quarantine this system. He paused, looking one last time at the blue world below. And we need to pray to whatever gods still listen that they never learn to leave their cage. The Zarek's vessel vanished into hyperspace, carrying with it the first fear their species had ever known, and the terrible knowledge that somewhere in the universe there existed beings who chose evil not from ignorance or necessity, but from pure, explicable desire. Behind them, Earth continued its slow rotation, unaware that it had just become the most feared world in the galaxy.